Hey, what's up, everybody? This is the coach, Jonathan Coachman from the WWE, and of course, you're listening to the Interactive Interview.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Interactive Interview on the Blaze at 1260 a.m. We're pleased to be joined by Jonathan, the Coach, Coachman. Coach, how you doing?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
All doing great, man.
Good. It's great to be in Phoenix. I tell you what, it's a hot one. You didn't know it was going to be this hot getting down here, but I'm dealing with it.
It's hot enough to melt a monkey's ass.
That it is.
Yeah.
That it is.
Well, Coach, let's get right into it. Myself and you are both doing a little broadcasting kind of thing. I'm assuming you went to college for broadcasting. You're trying to do your thing in this wrestling business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your education and how you got hooked up with the WWE?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. I actually have a BA in broadcast journalism from a small school in Kansas, which is where I'm from. It's just a little school of about 1,000 people. I was lucky enough. I've always wanted to be a sportscaster, is what I wanted to do. And I started in Wichita, Kansas at the ABC affiliate there. And then I moved on to Kansas City, and I was working with Hall of Famer Lynn Dawson at the ABC affiliate there as well. So one day, one of the vice presidents from the WWF at the time, WWE now, came into Kansas City, saw me on TV, called me the next day, and 4 months later I was working here. So it was just kind of a fluke deal, and that was 6 years ago, and I guess I'm still going strong.
Now, announcers that you've had the pleasure of working with over at the WWE, who have you enjoyed working with the most?
The most of any of the announcers, or just, I would say of anybody, period. Maybe Michael Cole. I enjoy working with him, but really I like working with The Rock over anybody. As far as me personally, there isn't really an announce partner that I enjoy so much as D'Lo Brown was cool, Al Snow was cool, but The Rock is really the person that over the course of the last 6 years I've had the most fun with.
I think a lot of people would definitely agree that your sketches with The Rock were extremely entertaining. You mentioned you love working with him. What's it like working with him?
Well, it's funny because, you know, obviously on TV we've had our ups and downs over the course of 6 years, but the bottom line is I respect how great of an entertainer he is. I'm very excited about the fact that he's become such a big movie star now. But it's funny because there's a lot of times if people saw what we did 3-4 years ago, it's hard not to laugh even though he's making fun of you. You know, sometimes when even in real life, somebody's making fun of you, and it's funny, you got to laugh at yourself. And he was so good at doing it, it was a lot of times where I felt like, you know, I was going to laugh. But he's, you know, very charismatic, down-to-earth guy, and being a movie star hasn't changed him as much as I thought it would. You know, whether or not he ever comes back, I doubt it. Would you guys? $8 million a movie or travel 51 weeks a year, I think I know what I would do.
Oh, absolutely, and I think we discussed this several times in the air whenever we get a caller that says, oh, he betrayed the wrestling business. No, he did what was better for himself.
Yeah, exactly. The bottom line is any fan out there that ever says that, I say is an absolute idiot. And I will stand by that because they don't understand what it's like to travel 200. And for him, I mean, I travel 250 days a year. I mean, he was traveling 280, 290 with personal appearances and all that kind of stuff. It's grueling. As great as the wrestling business is, as much fun as we have, you know, when you can make 2 or 3 times the money or 4 times the money and you're doing movies and you're working with Cedric the Entertainer, you're working with all these different guys, you'd be insane not to do it full time.
When you entered
the stuff with you and The Rock was scripted, or how much of it was just kind of off the cuff?
Well, a lot of it was off the cuff. We kind of knew the direction we wanted to go in and kind of the point we wanted to make. But, you know, he's really good on the fly. I'm really good on the fly. So you don't want to script it too much because then it just loses some of its spontaneity, I guess is the word I'm looking for. So a lot of it, you know, sometimes the microphone would come apart. Sometimes he'd say something I didn't know he was going to say, and so we would just go with it. And when we went with it, it was fun.
Prior to SummerSlam 2003, you had been strictly a backstage interviewer and an announcer. And once that happened, you became a on-air personality that, quite frankly, from a lot of the callers, has grown on many of the pro wrestling fans out there. How'd you feel about becoming an on-air personality on Raw?
Well, it's funny because I was just saying this as we landed today that my career here really changed course and for the better. Just 100%, 200%. 2 years ago, right here in Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, so every time I come here, I remember how my life has changed so much, and it was amazing. And I never thought I'd get into the physical stuff. I never thought I would be able to run my mouth as much as I've been able to. But it's been fantastic. Do I like taking the beatings? Not particularly. As a part of the job, absolutely. Is it a lot of fun? Every single day. So my life really changed 2 years ago right here at the America West Arena. No doubt about that.
Now, as far as your character, you're pretty much Bischoff's second in command. But
Yeah.
a lot of us think that you would be even better as a manager to help a lot of guys who aren't as good on the microphone and help them get over a little more. Have you ever been approached about being a manager? Has that idea ever been brought up other than the character?
Yeah, we've talked about it. It just with me, I've worked so hard to get to a point where I'm one of the main guys in the show. So I don't really just hook up with any new person who walks through the door. It's got to be the right fit in the right situation. But if the right person came along and that's something we wanted to do and we needed to do, then that's what we would do. So I'm open for anything. And if there's a young talent that comes through the door and needs my help, absolutely, I'd be more than willing to do that, without a doubt.
You mentioned that you took some beatings and you really didn't enjoy it, but obviously by seeing you in the ring that you're somewhat of an athlete, you're a pretty good athlete. Who trained you in the few matches that you have had? Who trained you for those?
Well, we have very, very good agents. Former greats like Arn Anderson, Dean Malenko from the Four Horsemen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawing blanks now. Fitz Finley has trained us also. But a lot of the guys, I'll get in there with Christian, I'll get in there with Edge and guys like that. And, certainly I would never put myself on their level or will ever be at that level. But you just got to make it to a point where you could take a beating and make it look good. So I used to be a really good athlete in college. I played college basketball. So I can still, get up and down pretty good. But, it doesn't train you to take a chair to the back or, go through a table. But it's been a lot better than I anticipated because there's a little fear going into all that. But, you learn how to do it and you learn how to do it safely, and that's the most important thing. Knock on wood, I haven't been seriously injured as of yet. And but you learn how to do it the right way. And I think that's what a lot of people forget about is that even though they're doing it full speed, 100 miles an hour, they're doing it safely. And they still get hurt even doing it safely. So, but I enjoy being in there. It's a hell of a lot of fun.
Now, back on the announcing side of things, you've replaced when JR's had to do a match or when he's been injured. You've stepped in for him for the Raw announce team, which is obviously, got to be huge shoes to fill. Do you ever foresee yourself joining the Raw announce team on a permanent basis? Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's one of those situations. I'm a very real person with my talents, what I'm good at, what I'm not good at. Do I see myself ever joining the Raw announce team? Not as play-by-play. Am I adequate fill-in? Sure. Would I ever fill that spot permanently? I don't think so. JR's, possibly the greatest of all time. Michael Cole's very good. We've got a new guy named Todd Grisham, who's actually from Tucson, Arizona, who is very good as well. But as far as me, I'm more of a caller guy now. And so if I was ever joining the Raw team, it would be doing caller. And I don't think doing play-by-play. So I know my strengths, I know my weaknesses, and like my dad always taught me, you play your strengths, not your weaknesses. So I don't think so. But we'll see. Maybe King will retire one day, and I'll take his spot. But I certainly don't think I'll ever take a permanent spot doing play-by-play.
Who do you feel that you've learned the most from out of all the announcers in the WWE to help you with your announcing abilities?
I would have to say JR. When you can learn from the best, that's what you do. And he's obviously very, very busy. He's a man who does a lot more than just announce. So you learn a lot of things. You learn how to tell the story in the way that Vince McMahon wants you to tell it, and you learn how to tell the story so that the fans understand what we're trying to do. And if you do that, then you're doing it well when you get to the town the next week after you've done the previous show, and the fans are right there with you. So I get my feedback like a week later.
Well, speaking of announcers, kind of a little off the topic, you were at the ECW One Night Stand pay-per-view. I'm sure you got to watch it since then. How do you think Joey Styles handled himself as an announcer? Give us a quick critique of his performance on the paper.
I've always thought Joey Styles was a very, very good announcer, very good play-by-play, very schooled, knows the history, knows the moves very well. And personally, I think he made a professional mistake a few years ago when he was offered a job. When ECW went down, and he was offered a job, decided not to take it, and has been regretting it ever since. So I think he can fit right in. I think we'll work with him in the future, no doubt about it. He's very good. I just think he made a mistake a few years ago.
Of course, other news with the ECW review, of course, you were in attendance, and you had the white-hot hatred from that fans. What's it like to be in front of the crowd that just absolutely despises you?
Yeah, they didn't like me very much. They didn't like me very much. I tell you what, that's maybe the first time in my career where I was seriously I was seriously worried for my personal safety. Those fans absolutely didn't like me. They made no bones about it, and it was one of those situations I was just hoping to get in and get out, all in one piece. But it was actually it was fun to be in the arena. Once in a while it's not bad, but like we said, we need to end that ECW stuff. I think we did that, but it was intense. There's no doubt about it. Those fans are emotional about their ECW product, and they were emotional that night. And I think a lot of fans actually really liked the pay-per-view, from what I understand.
How were a lot of the other wrestlers feeling as far as their personal safety? Because when we were watching you guys come down to the ring, it seemed like the fans, were really rabid. They were like, yo, I'm going to get some of this guy.
Well, they were, and I had fans physically threaten me. They vocally threatened me from the start of Sunday Night Heat all the way to the end of the pay-per-view. They were very close. They could get to us, but luckily none of them took a shot. But all the other guys, they couldn't believe how intense the ECW fans really were, because we've never been around that before. We were never around it, 5-6 years ago. So it was a little more than I think we even expected. But we got out of there. Everybody was cool. Everybody was good, and we're feeling good. So I think all the guys were done.
I'll tell you what. I think the fans were actually
follow the ECW pay-per-view have to be a little half crazy, because for my money, there's no way I'm going to talk trash to Kurt Angle or Edge or any of them.
Well, back to the WWE. You are the MC of the Diva Search this year, as you were last year. Is there going to be any changes in the format or how things are going to go this time, or anything you can tell us about that?
Yeah, we've already changed it. We've only selected 8 this year instead of 10. And the reason we've done that is so that the fans can get to know the girls a little bit better. I think one thing we felt like last year is that the fans really couldn't get to know the girls as well as we would have liked early on, because there were so many of them. So we cut 2 spots, and we're going to do some new challenges, some new things for the girls to do. I personally feel like we've got a group of girls this year who have a little more attitude, a little more personality than last year. So, of course, whenever the coach is in charge, the girls are going to be top-notch. So I think you'll be very pleased, and the girls are hot. And I like to refer to them this year as kind of dirty hot, because they have a lot of personality, and I think the fans are going to like that.
That's got to be any more emphasis placed on in-ring or athletic ability versus last year?
I don't think so. I think at least for right now, we're kind of getting away from the in-ring ability as far as a lot of our girls are concerned. Right now Trish Stratus is on the shelf, and one of the prerequisites in the Diva Search is we make it very clear they do not even have to be a fan. They certainly don't have to ever wrestle, because a lot of women these days, they do not want to put their bodies through that. I don't know. There's a lot of people that don't want to, male or female. So these girls are beautiful. They have great bodies. They look fantastic, and the last thing that a lot of them want to do is wrestle. Now, there were a couple that came for the tryout that had great bodies and may end up in our training facility in either Louisville or Atlanta. But as far as the winner of the Diva Search, I doubt she's going to be like Christy Hemme and ever get in the ring. I really do.
You just mentioned something that has been really a hot topic on our radio show, and that's, of course, the new developmental territory in Atlanta. A big concern that a lot of us had was that when you look at both rosters, it's just like there's not as many matches on a card as there were, say, 3 or 4 years ago. Is opening up this new developmental territory a way for WWE to bolster both Raw and SmackDown's ranks so that you got even more depth?
Well, I think so. I think one of the problems is, when you're on TV so much, I mean, it's for a wrestler or a new character or whatever to really, really become popular with the fans. Our fans are very, very jaded, and you guys obviously on a daily, weekly basis on your show get very smart wrestling fans. Yes. And so you really have to come with a strong personality, strong in-ring product in order for the fans to care. So it takes a long time for a new character to come through, and they don't just grow on trees. So sometimes you're going to go through a phase where there just aren't a lot of guys coming up. So we're hoping by opening up the Atlanta thing that the guys will have more in-ring time. They'll be trained more and have more hands-on experience. So when they get to the big dance, so to speak, they get up with us, they'll be ready to go. Because a lot of what happens is these young kids come up, they look great, but they can't talk, or they can talk, and they're not great in the ring. So we want to make sure they're polished all the way around before we put them on television.
Right, and I think that's the way it has to go. That should be, I mean, that's the detriment of not having a competition company, because you can't, trade talent anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the most difficult thing is that all the really good talent is here. TNA has some guys that are good in the ring. ECW from the other day, the pay-per-view, they still got some guys that can flat out go. But you have to have the total package in order to be a superstar the fans are going to want to pay to see. They don't just grow on trees. I mean, The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, guys like that, Edge, Christian, they all came in at the same time. That's very, very unusual. Very unusual. And it just doesn't happen very often. And so sometimes you go through your ups, you go through your downs, and you just keep plodding along. And that's what we take a great deal of pride in, is that we just keep going. We keep going, and you're going to have your good weeks, you're going to have your bad weeks, but you make every week a good one.
Yeah, that's a great point, because I mean, when in the 80s, it was just Hulk Hogan, and then in the 90s you had a bunch of tough guys like Austin, Rock, Triple H, Undertaker. I mean, it was actually a huge boom in talent, yeah.
Right. And exactly. And right now overseas we're huge. We go overseas a lot more than we used to. So you do what you have to get in front of the fans that want to see you the most. And so we've changed how we do our live events here in the United States. There's occasionally where we'll do SmackDown and Raw on the same night. So we've changed things a lot to make the atmosphere as great as it can be, because you guys have seen it. When we have a really good crowd, it makes your show that much better. And we can do the same show in front of a crowd that's not so good, and you're just like, it was okay.
Yeah.
So a crowd makes all the difference in the world, more than any other show on television.
Absolutely. I think
that was a great reason for putting WrestleMania in Chicago, because last few times you guys have gone there, they've been absolutely fantastic as a crowd.
Well, they're red hot, and a lot of people are questioning why would you go to such a small arena. Well, it's such a big thing, it's such a big pay-per-view event that sure you like having the big arenas. We loved being in Seattle, we loved being in Toronto, we loved being at the Astrodome. But when you talk about an intimate, rockin', red hot from start to finish crowd, it doesn't get any better than Chicago. Bar none, bottom line. So it's going to be great next year, even though it's a small venue. It's going to be a great event on television, and that's what it's all about. Because let's face it, you got 20,000 people watching in the arena, but you're going to have 10 million watching at home and 15 million worldwide, whatever it is, and it needs to look and sound great on TV.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the things that really made the ECW pay-per-view was it actually was an ECW crowd.
Yeah, you're saying that again. It was all an ECW crowd.
All right,
no doubt about it.
All right, now, before we let you go, can we give you a couple word associations? This is basically a time when you can just give a one-word answer, or if you hear the name and you have to tell a story, well, feel free to go ahead and do so. We got all the time in the world.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, the first name I got for you is Vince McMahon.
Tough, fair, best boss I will ever have.
How about the game Triple H?
One of the greatest talents the business has ever seen. Loves the business more than anybody.
How about Jim Ross?
JR?
JR, yeah.
Tough on me. Sometimes fair on me. Greatest announcer ever.
How about Jerry Lawler?
Kind of goofy, but a lot of fun, and I hope I'm like that when I'm 55 or whatever he is.
You think Jerry Lawler's a little goofy?
Just a tad.
Really?
Just a tad. but he's had a hell of a lot of fun the last 30 years, and that's all I try to do. Is if I'm having fun every single day, then I'm a happy camper. I can tell you that. And every single day, the coach is a happy, happy camper.
How about a former broadcast partner of yours on Sunday Night Heat, Al Snow? Al
Snow is the biggest goof I've ever met, but I love him like a brother, and an unbelievable trainer. And I think will help us produce a lot more stars coming out of Louisville now.
We actually had a chance to sit down and do an interview with Ivory. She's the next day.
Boy, I bet that lasted about an hour.
Actually, it was about 2 hours.
Yeah, you had to take some Advil when you got done. Because she never shuts up. She has the biggest mouth in the history of women.
No, this is the truth.
In the history of women.
Let me shoot here. It was actually, you take a wild guess how actually long it went.
Well, I'm going to guess an hour.
It went 2 hours. I am not kidding you one bit. It went 2 hours legit. Chuck and I hung up the phone and we're like, what the hell did we just do? I mean, she's the sweetest woman, though.
Yeah, I walk away from her. I can't have a conversation with her. I just can't. I just can't. It's impossible. It's impossible.
How about the winner of last year's Diva Search competition, Christy Hemme?
Better than I expected. Could continue to be good. It has to get better and change things so she doesn't get stagnant.
Mm-hmm. How about the runner-up and someone who I have a question if she's still actually a member of the WWE, Carmella?
Is not a member of the WWE. She has more of a personality, would be here. Absolutely gorgeous. A lot sweeter than a lot of people even knew. Hopefully she does well, but I don't think she has a personality to be here.
Mm-hmm. Last but not least, WWE Diva contestant. How about Maria?
I have to be honest.
We like it.
Sweet girl, not very intelligent. That's it.
I got one for you here. And I'll say it the way Maria would say it, okay? How about The Edge?
Edge is a great superstar. That's it.
How about last name that I have for you is the great one, The Rock.
The Rock, in my opinion, the greatest entertainer this business has ever seen. Maybe not the biggest name. If Hulk Hogan's one, then The Rock is 1A. But an absolute thrill that I even got a chance to work with him in my career, and absolutely loved every single second of it. If I never am on TV with him again, I was one of the few that got to say I worked with him. So not just a great entertainer in the business, but a great entertainer, period, and an absolute thrill to even ever share the screen with him.
Now let me ask you this real quick, Coach. How many times are you walking down the street and someone tells you to go get a haircut and wash your ass?
And not very often because I'm bald and my ass is very clean.
Now, didn't The Rock give you that promo at one point in time?
He gave me a lot. He also told me that I like cows' backsides too, so he gave me a lot.
Yeah, that was funny stuff, man. That was funny stuff. Well, we really appreciate your time, man. Have a great day, and take it easy, brother.
Anytime, guys. I appreciate you having me on, and I hope all the fans in Phoenix love the show. Monday night, and it should be great. And we're excited to be back in Phoenix, and it's going to be a great show this week. And, of course, heading to Vengeance next Sunday on pay-per-view. So thanks again for having me, guys. Anytime you need me, just give the coach a call.
You're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio, featuring the Interactive Interview, courtesy of WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Interactive Interview. It's your boy Chuck D alongside me, as always, and my partner in crime, Jimmy Dub.
James Walsh. I don't know how I'm liking the gimmick.
See, his gimmick's already failed, man. He's no better than Visser, I'll tell you what.
Yeah.
We got a good show for you guys tonight. We got a little
Only
bit
one thing, though, I get more hoes.
Yeah, maybe. We got a great show for you guys tonight. We got another WWE talent joining us on the show. It's going to be none other than the coach, Jonathan Coachman. We also got Raw discussion. We got SmackDown discussion, as well as a Vengeance discussion. So I guess at this point in time, we're going to get right into it. I believe we already have our first caller on the line. Caller, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you.
Oh, my God. It is Matthew from the Wrestling Epicenter website. He's joining us here today to discuss a little bit of Raw. So let's start right into it. First match we saw, or I should say our first promo, was our opener. We had the fireworks go off, and we're ready to go. Coming out is Kurt Angle to start off the show. And I cannot think of a much better way to start off the show than having your Olympic hero join the
You
program.
are such a mark. It's pathetic.
I love Kurt Angle. I can't help it.
It's just pathetic, dude. Just pathetic.
Well, this actually set up, in my opinion, one of the more special matches of the evening when he took on Ric Flair and actually managed to carry him to a good match. But we're going to talk about
Question
that
for you.
later on. Yes.
What in the Sam hell was Flair talking about? I'll poke you in the eyes and I'll grab you by the testicles. Woo!
He was out to lunch, man. Half the stuff he's saying, it didn't even make sense.
That reminded me of his Hall of Fame speech when he said, "Yeah, Brian Knobbs got phlebitis. Night, night."
Yeah, he's not normal. What did you think of the opening segment, Hoover?
I thought it was pretty good. It was a lot better than seeing Triple H come out and talk for 10 minutes. I enjoyed seeing Kurt Angle come out, and it set up a good match. Something very unique. Ric Flair versus Kurt Angle, good match.
Now, how do you guys feel about not being able to see Triple H on the line? James Walsh, you go first.
Not seeing Triple H last night was actually a refreshing change. I think it's good for everybody involved to see Triple H not be involved in the show for a little while because, like we discussed last week, you really don't know what you have until it's gone. And now that Triple H is not with us this week or last week, really, he wasn't that involved. Well, yeah, he was. I take that back. But if he stays off TV for a good 2, 3, 4 weeks, maybe when he comes back, we'll appreciate him just a little bit more because I think that's necessary.
I personally did not see that happening. I see him and John Cena hooking right up in a feud, just like I see Batista and JBL hooking right up in a feud. But it was at least one night without Triple H, and it gave Raw a little something extra because we got to see Kurt Angle and Ric Flair.
Good point, good point. And what really surprised me about this whole segment was the fact that Ric Flair, for someone who has proclaimed on this show before that he's not a big fan of the Internet, seemed to be using a lot of Internet terminology and really trying to draw in the Internet audience last night. He's using words like mark out and pops and all this good stuff.
Kurt Angle mark.
Yeah, he was using the typical Internet terminology to get himself over. And, I think it's kind of sad.
I think I converted him.
I don't think you converted him, dude. I think maybe you showed him the light that,
We're not all idiots.
Perhaps. Let's move on to our
Just
next
80%
segment.
80% of us are.
We had Edge and Snitsky that we're going to take on Kane and a draft pick to be announced. And we all know what happened here. None other than the Big Show came out after. Yeah, it was kind of an odd match the way this whole thing went down. There was Edge and Kane going one-on-one. They fought outside the building and left. That left Snitsky alone to face the Big Show, who quickly dismantled him with a chokeslam and made Snitsky basically look like a bitch.
Oh, yeah, he looked like a bitch. He looked like a filthy bitch that he picked up on the street corner for about 15 cents. Not good for Snitsky, not good for anybody involved. I like Snitsky. It was kind of sad to see it go down that way. Maybe Big Show can restart his career here, maybe get on the right track. He's not been on the right track on SmackDown lately. I think maybe this could be good for Big Show. Unfortunately, I just think it's a wasted pick, and I don't think Big Show is going to be a big part of the storylines on Raw.
What do you think about the Big Show coming to Raw, Hoover?
Well, I think Big Show, when he was on Raw before, right around the time Eric Bischoff had first come on to WWE scene, he was pretty much made to look a fool. If you remember, he was made to look a fool for a long time until going to SmackDown and getting a couple title runs as the U.S. champion, world champion. I don't see him being as big as he was on SmackDown. I think it hurts his career not being on SmackDown. There's a lot of different people that they could pair him up in feuds on Raw, maybe Triple H, Edge, Kane, but I liked him on SmackDown, and I think it's a bad move, but maybe WWE will prove us wrong.
I think we're all in pretty much agreement at this point that, Big Show, he's kind of a big fish in a small pond, and he would have been able to better, use his talents and shine a little bit more in SmackDown. That's just my personal opinion.
Well, Big Show's going to be around until 1999. They signed him for a 10-year deal. In
1999, man. He's been around a lot longer.
2009. There we go. He signed a contract for 10 years in 1999, and he'll be around until then, so hopefully they can find something good to do with him. If you look at his template from WCW, he was used perfectly. Maybe if they can get back to that, maybe take him off TV for 6 months and repackage him. That'd be tremendous.
Well, hold on, Hoover. We got to keep this moving right along here. Up next, we had kind of one of the funnier backstage segments. Hoover, I know you probably like this one as you're a big fan of Maria. We had John Cena shown with Maria doing an interview. And you know what? As much as I think John Cena is an excellent talker, and it was nice to see HBK come out there and do some talking as well, I personally think that Maria stole the show on this segment.
She was very unique in this segment. I just like her whole little story.
She was special.
She was special, and John Cena, I thought he was great with facial reactions, reacting to everything she said. I think they have good chemistry.
Special like Rain Man and the little kid from Life Goes On, Corky. You know,
Sort
very
of,
special.
but
Well, at first I was really skeptical about how she was going to handle this, because she wasn't really playing the Dixie character very well at the beginning. But, this actually gave me some hope that this could be, not something that's really going to get a whole lot
It's
of
not
ratings.
a character. It's not a character.
Well,
She is that dumb.
The point is it could be something that could, not really get over huge, but it could be something that could add a little bit of spice to the Raw
it does.
television show, and I'm fine with that.
It's better than having somebody back there and just a straight-up interviewer like Terry Reynolds was and Lillian Garcia was in the past. She just adds a little something different, Hey, I like it.
I can't stand it, to be honest with you. But I thought she was funny last night. I think that they did turn a bad and negative into a positive by giving her the stupid character, because quite frankly, it's clear to me that she's never watched a wrestling match in her life. I doubt she watches it even when she's backstage, but they've taken a stupid person or an uneducated person in terms of wrestling. Maybe she's very smart everywhere else, but in terms of wrestling, she doesn't know her stuff. They took that character and they made it a character. And
so I think we're going to go ahead and basically give the WWE a thumbs up for trying to do something sort of step in the
making
in the right
a positive
direction.
out of a negative.
That's correct. Coming up next, we had an odd little segment, a lot of segments it seems here to open up this show. But we had Kane pop out in Lita's dressing room and proceed to choke her out, kind of Chuck D style.
When in doubt, choke him out.
It was kind of creepy. But I'm kind of at the same point disappointed that we have to sit through more Kane, Lita, and Edge turmoil for the next few weeks, as it looks like this is going to carry on until the next Raw pay-per-view.
Edge needs the win.
Personally, I think that they're going to continue this until they decide what they're going to do with Matt Hardy. I think right now they're pretty much just stalling until they figure out what they want to do with this whole situation.
Yeah, I think the sooner they figure it out, the better it's going to be for all the fans, because Kane is a good guy to see, in my opinion, as a mid-carder. At this point in his career, I don't see him anything higher. He gets a good pop for mid-carder. He can work some good mid-card feuds, get some wins, put some guys over. And I think that's the capacity he should be used in. I don't think Edge needs Kane at this point in time. And I think it really hurt Edge's character to give him a Kane the win over Edge at Vengeance.
Absolutely. We'll discuss Vengeance in the next segment, as a matter of fact, but I do agree with you completely.
Up next, we had Chris Masters doing another Master Lock Challenge, and this was a really terrible segment.
My favorite part of the show. My favorite part of the show.
And I'm not saying it because I don't like Chris Masters. I see it unbelievable that they're going to send out Tajiri, who's going to try and, break the Master Lock. Everyone saw this coming from a mile away that it wasn't going to happen.
Well, I mean, what do you want to happen? You can't have everybody he beats be a viable contender.
Well,
no, but I think it's time. I think we've seen Chris Masters enough to get him either, let this kid sink or swim. Let's put him in a quality feud with a quality opponent and see how we can work a match.
Well, I think right now they're just slowly building him up until the bigger talents. Start out Stevie Richards, then now Venus. Now we're going with Tajiri. I kind of see where Tajiri would have been legit, because when he put him in the tarantula, it was the crowd popped, and when he spit the mist in the face, Tajiri's one of those guys who's so flexible and he can twist in ways he can't even twist. So I think they'll build him up, but I think eventually you're going to see somebody come out and really pose a challenge.
I agree with that. I think that he's going to somebody will break it, but it's not going to be for a while. I hope to hell it won't be Hulk Hogan next week, but I've heard rumors that it's going to be Hogan on Carlito's Cabana next week, which would definitely ease me. You know I'm a big Hogan mark, but I don't want to see another well-built-up situation end in nobody getting over.
Right, and that leads us to our next segment, speaking of the Cabana, was when Carlito's music hit, and this was kind of an exciting segment of the show. We were announced or revealed to our second SmackDown draft pick of the evening, as in the final week of the draft. Both brands get 2 picks, and it was none other than the whole effing show, Rob Van Dam.
Mr. Monday Night.
ECW. That was great. It was great. It was great seeing RVD and supporting ECW. I pretty much, the way I figured it is they sent Benoit over, so they needed to send somebody over to Raw who could carry the ECW banner. If they are going to do more ECW shows, you really can't have somebody like Tajiri leading the charge on Raw. Because on SmackDown we had Chris Benoit. So, and I think this.
What about Rey Mysterio? He got over so huge at the ECW pay-per-view.
He is on SmackDown. And my point was, RVD is on Raw. He can carry the ECW flame on Raw. And, Vince McMahon, wants to see what RVD can do on a live mic like he did at ECW. They were impressed.
What was exciting about this segment is the fact, to me, that I think that they're going to let RVD go ahead and try and do this shoot style of interview more often, and I think it could be interesting.
I think it could really help him get over. It's something that his character needs in WWE. Is a little something extra. This could be that little something that could get him not necessarily to a world title push, but maybe just a little higher than he once was.
And we got to continue right on here, Hoover. Next, we had the Ric Flair-Kurt Angle match. This was actually not a bad match. There was a few botch spots courtesy of Ric Flair, but I'll tell you what.
Yeah, Ric Flair collapsed on the top rope when he wasn't sure if he wanted to take the angle slam, then he wasn't sure if he wanted to take the superplex. So what did he do? He flopped onto the floor like an old fart.
I'll tell you what, Kurt Angle could carry a mop to a quality match, and that's exactly what he did last night. He sold for Ric Flair. You know, we always like to put over the fact that selling is a very important part of the business here on the Interactive Interview, and I'll tell you what, he sold for Ric Flair, and he made Ric Flair, you know, maybe not look like a 20-year-old, but he made him look at least like a 45-year-old, which is, you know, kind of...
About half his age, so...
10 years younger.
Yeah, I mean,
now.
It was a good match. It was something that I think, even though I'm not a huge Ric Flair fan, that I like to see. And, you know, it was good that Angle got the win. It seems to me that it's been a while since we've seen Kurt Angle, basically since WrestleMania, since he's got a quality win. So I was happy to see him go over. Not that Ric Flair's, you know, definitely a huge quality win or anything like that. But it's a good notch in Kurt Angle's belt. It was something that the fans wanted to see, you know, kind of a throwback match.
Something that's never been done, and it's something that needed to be done.
But as much as I'd like JR and respect him as, you know, a fellow person who talks for a living, the way he was putting over Ric Flair last night basically wanted me to just reach through the TV and choke him out. You know, the bestest can wrestler of all time. And I'm like, oh, come on, man, for Christ's sakes.
Maybe 20 years ago he would have been able to hold his own with Kurt Angle. Not today. I'm not the biggest Kurt Angle fan, but I will say that he's one of the best technical wrestlers in the business. Ric Flair today is a joke. I will give him credit. He worked hard last night, but you saw him at the end of the match. He was legitimately beat. I don't think it's healthy for a guy his age to be bouncing around the way he was, and quite frankly, he could pass away.
Now, let's move on. Hold on, Hoover. We got to keep it going because we're running over time here.
Okay, brother.
We have the Raw Diva search. I don't know what we're really going to say about this except for the fact that it was typically what you'd expect.
I like the one in the orange top.
Yeah, you know, there were some of the girls were okay looking. Overall, I don't really feel that it was a strong segment.
Do I know the name? No, but I like the one in the orange top.
So let's just move right on because, you know, enough said about this. We all know you got what you expected. We had Batista next meet with Todd Grisham. A typical Batista promo. Unfortunately, for those of you who haven't seen SmackDown, I suggest that you watch Raw because you're definitely going to want to see this as it could be perhaps the last time you see Batista on Raw, but I'm not going to say anything definitely. Up next, we had our final match of the evening. It was a six-man tag match. It was Shawn Michaels, John Cena, mystery partner, versus Chris Jericho, Tyson, Tom Cone, Christian, and James Walsh. Who was that mystery partner?
I don't know. I didn't watch the show. Just kidding. It was Hulk Hogan, pop of the night, without a doubt. You could argue with me, but the bottom line is you saw him in the ring. Everybody was with every punch he threw. You just cannot do that with any guy in the business today. Best wrestler of all time, without question. Was he in ring shape? He looked pretty good. Obviously, he was protecting his hip. I'm not going to deny that. He did good for what he did. The crowd popped for him huge. We're going to see him again next week at the 4th of July edition of Raw, and he's going to be on Carlito's Cabana, so it's going to be pretty interesting. I loved it. I thought it was great. Christian, this might be the last time you see him on Raw as well.
It very well could be.
Correction. Not the greatest wrestler of all time, the greatest entertainer and draw of all time. I'll give you that.
Wrestler is entertainer. Wrestling's entertainment.
Guys, we do not have the time, nor is this the medium to discuss
Continue.
this. You know what I'm saying? But I'll tell you what.
Wrestler of all time.
This match was okay for what it was, like you said.
The biggest icon in wrestling.
I really thought it was classy the way Cena handled himself, and it was something to see because it's got to be overwhelming for a guy like Cena who is, you know, only 23, 24 years old in the ring with the legends of Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan, as well as Chris Jericho and the Christian to some degree.
Classy move on him leaving the ring and letting those guys have their props. They were obviously getting mad props, if I can use that phrase that Cena might use. So he realized, well, you know, my day is coming. My day is pretty much here. These guys, they're pretty much on their last legs. Let's let them have their day in the sun.
Hoover, let's get your final thoughts here because we got to go to a quick commercial break. What was your overall feeling on Raw? Did you like it or did you not like it?
I give it a thumbs up. I thought it really didn't build on the future storylines. We do not know who's going to be feuding with John Cena over the world title, the WWE heavyweight title. But it was a good Raw. It was a good spot. See Hogan come out at the end. It was a good Raw. It was something a little different. Something unique. The Diva search was horrible. It was Viscera. Then next week we got to sit through Sergeant Slaughter, but it's okay because it's the 4th of July. But well, it was okay.
Bikini Boot Camp. Well, Hoover, man,
That's
we got to go
tremendous,
because we
man.
got to go to a commercial. We appreciate you calling in, brother, and we'll holla at you later.
All right, man.
Later on, bro.
Later.
So there he was, man, none other than Matt Hoover joining us here on the Interactive Interview. As I said before, we're done with Raw. We're going to come back with none other than WWE announcer Jonathan the Coach Coachman. Make sure you keep it locked right here to ASU's original alternative and home of the Interactive Interview.
Hola, this is the Wednesday Night Delight, Johnny Mundo, and you're listening to Interactive Wrestling Radio.
The workout never stops. It never gets easier. You're not born with rock hard abs. You're not born with the ability to jump off the top rope. This is Lucha Underground. You have to earn everything with hard work and sweat. Johnny Mundo on Lucha Underground. New episode Wednesday at 8 p.m. on El Rey Network.
Sponsored by Cricket Wireless. Something to smile.
There it was, ladies and gentlemen.
What the hell are we coming out to?
None other than Jonathan Coachman joining us here.
You're listening to Smooth Jazz on the Blaze 1260 AM.
None other than Jonathan Coachman joining us here on the Interactive Interview. That was a great interview. We had a lot of fun with him, and we definitely appreciate him joining the show. That had to be one of our more upbeat interviews, wasn't it? He was really funny. He was really open to answering any questions we had.
Gotta love the coach. Coach is one of the funniest guys I've ever had the opportunity to interview. I think you'd agree. Very open, very honest, and very funny.
Yeah,
like the guy.
Coach was a good guy.
He seems like the kind of guy I'd like to hang out with and have a beer.
I'll tell you what, guys. You can check out that full-length interview as well as the transcripts from it at WrestlingEpicenter.com later on this evening, and it should be popping up all over the net tomorrow morning. We also have some good interviews coming up. We're not going to give away anything about who it is. You're just going to have to tune in. Don't say anything, James, okay? We don't want to give anything away because I'll tell you what, unlike other people, we're smart enough to know we can't blow our wad too early. We got to let you guys, simmer on it. It's someone big, and you're going to enjoy it. I can promise you this.
There's nothing that pisses people off more than blowing their wad early.
I'll tell you what. This is going to be someone you guys are really going to like. It's someone that's current, and it's a big name, and it hasn't been done. So definitely tune in next Tuesday. We're going to be on, as usual, 7 p.m. And for more updates, always check out WrestlingEpicenter.com. That is the home of the Interactive Interview. But right now, we're going to move on into a little bit of vengeance. This happened this past Sunday. And it was overall not a bad show. The card looked a little weak, I thought, from the beginning of the show. But I think some of the matches ended up delivering a little bit more than I anticipated.
I personally thought that this card was going to deliver because the matches that they did have, even though they were few and far between, were really well built up, and they were really matches that everybody would like to see. For example, Kurt Angle, Shawn Michaels, anytime you put those two in the ring together, they're going to deliver.
I believe we have a caller on the line. Caller, are you with us? Hello? Okay, we do not have a caller on the line. These things happen. That's why radio is so interesting. We're kind of like WWE Monday Night Raw, flying by the seat of our pants. We are live.
Yeah.
But back to vengeance. What was the first match we saw, if I'm not mistaken? It was the Shelton Benjamin Carlito match.
Yes, it was.
In which Carlito actually retained the Intercontinental title, essentially ending Shelton Benjamin's push.
Well, tremendous. I can't be more grateful that Carlito's getting the push and Shelton is not. That's no slight on Shelton. I just don't think he was ready for what he was getting. I think Carlito is. I think the crowd's with him. I think he's ready for what he's about to receive. He's good in the ring. He's good on the mic. He's ready.
And I'd also like to remind you at this time, before we continue on with our vengeance discussion, you guys anywhere out there in Radioland or on the net listening to this show live, you can always call in. Our number's 480-965-1260. You can get on the air. Speak your thoughts about WWE Vengeance. Our next match was actually, this is one of the ones I'm referring to when I say some of the matches, did better than I had expected, and I think outdid all expectations, was the Christy Hemme Victoria match. I think, it was by no means a great match. I'm not trying to say this is a classic or anything.
No, you're not going to put this down as a Matt classic. What you will put this down as is a fairly good female match, and I actually think that it rivals or is better than Trish Stratus against Christy Hemme from WrestleMania, which many people trash as a bad match, but I think in comparison to the other matches on the card, it was, bad. But if you compare it to just a regular match, it was not that bad.
Well, as far as women workers go, you got to give Victoria obviously her props. She works her ass off, and Christy Hemme is
that's
learning.
Quite an ass.
Yeah, Christy Hemme is learning to work her ass off. So, kudos to them. It was definitely a good match. And this brought us up to our Edge versus Kane match with Lita in the corner. This is one of the matches that it outperformed expectations in my opinion, but the ending really kind of overshadowed the big picture and made this match less than stellar.
I don't understand why they gave Kane the win. It doesn't do anything for Kane, really, because I don't see him moving up to the next level anytime soon. I see Edge moving up to the next level, but he didn't really benefit from losing a match on pay-per-view, so nobody walks away with really anything to go by on this one.
Yeah, it seems like they don't really ever know what to do with Kane anymore. They seem like they kind of throw him in not really high-profile feuds, but, relatively high on the card. And he just kind of goes right through feud after feud after feud, never really making any movements up or down within the card. He's consistent, but I think he's a little stale at this point in time, and I think they're giving him a little bit more of a push than he deserves. I don't like Edge personally, as we all know, but I definitely think
Edge is one of the best performers in the business.
He's a good worker. There's no doubting it. The crowd's definitely hating him right now, and they need to get him out of this.
And I want to be the first to say this on the internet and on the radio. It doesn't matter what he did in his personal life. We shouldn't even be concerned with it anyway.
And to some degree that you're right. What they need to do, though, I think they do need to bring Matt Hardy back, and I think the two of them need to feud. People are salivating over the idea.
I think we saw that last week at Raw when they played Matt Hardy's theme song, and they popped huge for that, dude.
Still being there live and seeing that and thinking about it, even a couple weeks later, still definitely some kind of emotion went through that crowd. It was kind of undescribable in a way, don't you think, James?
Absolutely. People can relate to somebody who loses their job and loses their girlfriend, and that's why everybody really wants it. Everybody loves a loser, and by no means am I saying Matt Hardy's a loser, but in this situation he is. And that's why people
he's not a
want
loser
him.
Personally. Let's clarify what you're saying.
Oh, no, he's definitely a winner.
But, I mean, he lost out, is what you mean.
In this situation, he lost his job and he lost his girlfriend. Edge kept his job, got a push, and got his girlfriend. So who's the loser in this situation?
Right.
If you're picking
but we're not saying Matt Hardy's a loser by any means.
Oh, I love Matt Hardy.
We had Matt Hardy in the show, and he's a total class act.
And you can listen to that interview at WrestlingEpicenter.com.
You sure can. Coming up next, we had a match that was, they were worried about how it was going to compare to WrestleMania. But, I think it held its own. It was a great match. It was a little different than we saw at WrestleMania. It's none other than the HBK, Shawn Michaels versus Kurt Angle.
I think this surpassed their WrestleMania match, actually.
And why do you think that?
Because I think the outcome was accurate this time.
Oh, come on now. You got to, this could have went either way. Unfortunately, we all kind of expected that HBK would get the rub in this situation, kind of a...
He has a tendency to want to get the return victories over his opponents, meaning if he puts somebody over, he expects that they put him over in return down the line. And this was obviously what was going to happen. I personally was still excited to see the match. I think they went a hell of a long time. They was chock full of psychology, delivered on every level. Bing, bang, boom. Great match. Loved it
and
very much.
What really made this match, like you just hinted on, or touched on, what was the fact that they were given ample time. In this day and age, it's so hard to tell a good story and really get the psychology going and involve the crowd as deeply. But this one had the time, and it was able to do that.
You can't have it both ways. You cannot have a card that has 15 matches on it and then want them to give it time. Otherwise, you're going to have a 6 or 7 hour show, and you only are allowed 3 hours on pay-per-view.
So we're all going to be in agreement this was a pretty good match. Everyone who's a real wrestling fan totally enjoyed this. Which brings us to our next segment, which I personally didn't care for. Godfather came back. Lillian got the shaft from Viscera, figuratively, not literally. And this just really didn't do anything for me. I thought Viscera's character was going in the right direction. Not as a main event or anything like that. But, it was getting over with the crowd, and I think they changed it too soon.
I think they did change it too soon, and I want to point this out. We've interviewed a lot of former WWE guys soon after they got released because I have a very keen interest in doing that and talking to them about their careers. We never once tried to contact the Godfather. So that should show you how much we really were excited about seeing him. I'm not trashing the guy. I'm just saying that of all people that could have brought back, that one did not excite me.
And, it kind of fit in the storyline, but at the same token, it kind of didn't. It seemed like Lillian was really, you know what? This is a waste of time, dude. We're not even going to discuss this anymore. It is what it is. Another filler segment, blah, 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 blah. Let's get back to the matches. That's what we're here to talk about. Up next, we had John Cena versus Chris Jericho versus Christian. I was surprised this match was another one that I think outperformed expectations. More so thanks to Christian and Chris Jericho than Cena. But it was good to see Cena take some offense for once. everyone looked okay
First
in the
time
match.
he's done that in about 6 months.
Yeah, I mean, it was better booking, I think. The creative team finally booked Cena in a more effective way. His in-ring work, we're all going to be in agreement with this. Still needs a little practice. He'll get there, I think, at some point in time.
Yeah, I think he will.
But
I actually think he was better 2 years ago than he is now, which is what confuses me so much about it.
Well, again, I think we've discussed this before. It all has to do with the booking, and I think he's being booked a certain way, and I think that takes away from any in-ring ability he may have.
I don't necessarily agree or disagree with that. I just personally think that you're wrong.
Well, nevertheless, Cena still retains his title.
Yes.
And Christian...
I think that pretty much cemented our ideas that he's not going back to SmackDown and that somebody from Raw will have to go to SmackDown.
Someone is going to have to go. If you watch this Thursday, you guys are going to find out. We've unfortunately already saw the spoilers, so we know all about it.
And if you want to read the spoilers, you can read them on WrestlingEpicenter.com.
Man, you're worse than Nick Foley, dude. Cheap pops, cheap pops, cheap pops.
Oh, everybody here in Arizona. Yay!
Right on. Anyway, let's get on to our final match of the evening. None other than the Hell in the Cell. Triple H the Game taking on the World Heavyweight Champion Batista. And a match that was booked differently than any other Hell in the Cell we've seen, but I still think on a few different levels managed to deliver.
Absolutely. You knew neither one of these guys was going to get in there and climb the cage and fall off through a table like Mick Foley did. That just can't be done. That can't be recreated. So what do? You have to fill the cage with elements that you would not expect to see. Example, and the perfect example of this, was the barbed wire steel chair, which was sick looking, and those guys really got pretty cut up from it.
Triple H, that wasn't a shoot last night when they said the dude had to have 30 stitches. This dude was busted open. I think a little bit more legit than people had first thought. And, to be honest with you, seeing Batista last night on Raw, he looked, a little worse for wear himself.
Yeah, he was looking like he was a little bit out of it himself. I don't think either one of those guys came out of there thinking, that was fun, let's do it again.
Yeah, I think, there's got to be a point in time in Triple H's career where he's going to need to say, I don't think I want to do any more Hell in the Cell matches, because he's been in quite a few, and he never comes out, there's even rumors that he's actually legitimately broken a rib. We legitimately may not see the game in a wrestling capacity for, another month or so because of this match.
And the bottom line is, it doesn't matter how much he beats himself up, the internet will never give him credit for doing it.
That's a shame.
And I feel bad about that, because I really do think the game may be, quite possibly may be, the best performer in the business today.
He's a great worker. I don't think people give him enough credit for that. I'll agree with some of the people that say his character perhaps is a little bit stale. He might need to get a little more depth to his character. But, for this match, he in all honesty, he carried Batista to a good match. He made himself go through hell to get this match over, to be the third and final installment of their feud, and I think it worked well.
Absolutely. He didn't make Batista look weak at all. Batista looks really strong in the match. He came out looking strong by getting the win. He didn't hold anybody down. In fact, he built somebody up for the third time. I'm sick and tired of people putting down Triple H for backstage
if people
politics.
still say he doesn't show any ass when he's working in this business or invokes a glass ceiling, this was it, ladies and gentlemen. We're not going to see Triple H and Batista for a while down the road. And Batista has been elevated thanks to Triple H. And don't get it wrong. Batista has some talent and has gotten part of the way on himself. But he has built Batista into a credible champion.
I finally made Chuck D see the light.
You didn't make me see the light, bro. I think Triple H is stale. And I'm not ever going to change that thought until he changes up his gimmick a little bit. And I think his promos are also a little stale at this point in time. But,
how about we making him a Vietnamese prostitute named Ping Mao?
Dude.
Well, what do you want him to change his character to?
I said add more depth.
No, he's already deep enough.
Oh, dude. At this point in time, though, we got to take a quick break. You're listening to the interactive interview on The Blaze, 1260 AM. We're going to come right back with some SmackDown discussion.
Hey, everybody out there, this is the franchise Shane Douglas telling you that when you want the lowdown, the best, the very bottom line of professional wrestling information, you got to listen right here. Interactive interview.
And, ladies and gentlemen, we're back here on the interactive interview. The chat room's going crazy. They definitely have their thoughts on Avengers as well as the coach interview. Go to www.wrestlingepicenter.com to find out more information.
That's right, www.wrestlingepicenter.com.
You got it. We're heading on to SmackDown. We're trucking right through the show. Because as always, man, we're just running out of time. We need like an 8-hour show, bro.
8 hours. That'd be pretty intense. I think our chat room would like that, though. What do you think, guys? Tell us. What do you think? You want us to go 8 hours? Right in the chat room at www.wrestlingepicenter.com. Thank you, Arizona. Yay!
The problem is when we have to do this, we have to skim over so many matches. There's so much that happened in Hell in the Cell, so many other elements to Raw that we just can't discuss. But keeping with the theme, we're moving right on. We also like to remind you, we're now doing our SmackDown results. If you want to call in and get on the air with your boy Chuck D and James Walsh, number is 480-965-1260. That's 480-965-1260. Call us up, and we'll talk some wrestling with you.
Dub.
Let's get right into it. A little SmackDown. Started out with, as usual, it's quirky. Odd little entrance. And it was the music of Randy Orton. He made his way down the aisle. He made it blah, blah, blah. So much talking here. There was JB on there, Taker. Everyone was going crazy. And I don't know. I don't actually, I'll be honest with you guys. I couldn't see this segment. I was unfortunately tied up in class.
I call it a cluster F. That's what I call it. It seemed like a cluster F to me. I watched the show. I enjoyed it somewhat. I just thought this opening was a cluster. I think they need to find a better way to open SmackDown. I think the perfect way to do so would be a cruiserweight match, but they never seem to do that.
It's like a running joke on this show. Every time that show starts, it's like someone comes out and then someone else comes out, joined by 5 other people, then an added 6th one, and then an 8th person
And then
comes
somebody
out.
decides they're going to sit at the announce table and call color.
Color when there's no match even going on.
Yep.
They're calling color on the people shooting on each other essentially in the ring. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's just, it's too much. But this brings us to our...
How about just put Chavo Guerrero and Paul London in the ring together and let them wrestle?
Let them work. Let's see some wrestling.
Yeah. The marquee still says wrestling, to quote Arn Anderson.
That's right, dude. Our first match of the evening, however, was Joey Mercury versus Heidenreich. And I'm actually kind of surprised. There's actually now being a feud built up within this feud of Melina and Michelle McCool, if I'm not mistaken, who's actually been doing some training to wrestle.
And that match is actually signed for this Thursday. Tune into UPN to see that match. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, you know, I know Melina can work because she spent a lot of time down in OVW. I don't know about Michelle McCool, but I'm hearing she's training, and she's not doing too poorly. So maybe we can actually see a quality match out of 2 females on SmackDown, something we haven't seen in quite some time, to be completely honest with you. But as a result of...
you mean that great female worker, Tori Wilson, doesn't do it for you?
Come on now, dude. We're not even going to go there this week, dude. You got to let sleeping dogs lie.
This man let them get hit by a car.
This man always has to just keep bringing up the same. You're like Triple H, bro. You cut a promo that's the same promo week after week.
Do you know who I
week.
am?
No, I don't know who you are. But anyway, the finish of this match saw Joey Mercury, getting the victory due to Melina's interference. And I was kind of surprised. I really did not see this one coming. I did get to witness this match. I thought for sure Heidenreich would go over.
Absolutely. Heidenreich was getting a U.S. title push just about a month ago, and now he's pretty much sunk down the card losing to a member of the Tag Team Champions. I like Heidenreich. I think he needs to join the Tag Team division, and I thought the perfect way to do that would be having Eugene come over. We'll find out on Thursday if that happens, but I wouldn't cross my fingers.
So this brings us to our next match of the evening, which was the Paul London Chavo Guerrero match, something you mentioned you would have liked to have seen. This was for the championship, but guess how it ended? No contest.
Cluster F.
Always, man. London was going to go for the suicide dive, some Mexican music hits. The big lawnmower came out. We had Juventud Guerrero, Super Crazy, and Psychosis.
What is it with these racial gimmicks? I can't take it anymore, dude. I have to speak on this.
They're not Mexican, dude. They're Mexicool.
They're Mexicool, and they ride a lawnmower. And I'm sure if we paid them $50, they'd mow it for us. Well, crying out loud, these racial slurs have got to stop. Every black man has to be a pimp or a womanizer. Every Mexican has to drive a lawnmower or a lowrider or talk like Cheech and Chong. I don't like that. End it.
Yeah, I think that they could have done more with Juventud. I mean, it's kind of nice to see them all together, to be honest with you, because I think they could be a force to be reckoned with. I could see that being kind of a mini-stable, maybe get one more person involved.
The Latino World Order rides again.
Well, something like that. You know, you could have a tag team run out of those, you know, a couple of those people in that little group, and then have someone be the Cruiserweight champion. You know, it had a little more depth to the Cruiserweight division, and it certainly couldn't hurt the tag team division. Lord knows anything helps them.
Yeah, they desperately need talent in there. I do like Eminem tremendously, though.
And this led us to our next segment.
They just need somebody to work with.
Yeah, they do. And I think that, you know, it's no secret that Juventud, Super Crazy, and Psychosis are all, you know, pretty good workers.
Yeah, they're also pretty small, which is going to be their detriment. But that's why they're good for Cruiserweight division.
Now, there was a long long segment here.
How long?
Dude.
Long.
This was the whole setting up for this Thursday's six-man tournament to see who faces the or earns a shot at the new title on SmackDown. So we saw The Undertaker, we saw Hassan, we saw JBL, we saw the Big Show. Another big cluster, man. That's what it is.
Big cluster F.
Too many people in the ring, taking up too much time. But anyway, this led to a match that featured the Big Show taking on kind of a fast-growing star in our minds, Muhammad Hassan.
Yes, and Muhammad Hassan gets the win as he jumps over to SmackDown.
But
isn't that hot?
Now, the thing about this was, actually, James Walsh, I'm going to give him some credit here, which I don't often do on the show, because, I'm kind of an ass clown. I don't like to give credit where credit's not due, but I'm going to give it some credit this time. James Walsh was one of the only people that I heard call Big Show going over to Raw. And, we should have took notice when he lost to Muhammad Hassan, because it's been a trend throughout this entire draft. The person loses, they get a little bit buried, and they get switched to the other show. Big Show got buried. He lost to Hassan. And then there he was, man, just like James Walsh predicted, chilling over on Raw.
Oh, yeah, you can never argue with me. Don't argue with the big dog. The big dog's always right.
Well, did you call RVD going to Raw?
No, you actually called that one.
Oh, because holla at your boy. Chuck D knows what he's talking about, my man.
You got lucky.
Oh,
Even a blind squirrel occasionally finds an acorn once in a while.
Thank you, Fred Rogers. I'll tell you what, man, this guy has got to get some new material. He's killing me every week. So, then we finally had what appears to be perhaps the culmination of the Rey Mysterio-Eddie Guerrero feud. Unfortunately, I was pulled away from the television. I missed the SmackDown main event. James Walsh, take it to the house.
Fair match. I wasn't really surprised, to be honest with you. And that's all I have to say.
Oh, dude, it was a long match. You got to have something more to say than that.
All right. Say it again. Set me up again. Let me get in the mood this time.
Anyway, I'm going to take
Load it up.
I didn't even see it. I'm just going to read the results and say this. I think Eddie's new character is not going to work so well.
Okay. I'm ready now.
Okay. So
this is what you got to do when you got a star like me on the line. All right. Ready? I thought this match was really good. I thought it surpassed their WrestleMania match. However, I was surprised and disappointed that Rey Mysterio got the win. I don't think it was necessary for either one of them, unless Rey's going to get a push in the heavyweight division, and if that happens, I think his size is really, really going to become exposed, especially if they put him in there with somebody the size of Matt Morgan. So, ultimately, I think this is not going to help either one of them. I thought this was my second draft pick for this week would have been Eddie Guerrero, and it was, and it didn't happen. So I was wrong on that one, but I was using the same logic that we used before, that if you lose and get buried, you usually get drafted. And I thought Eddie lost and was going to get drafted.
I personally think Eddie's new character is not that entertaining. He was entertaining before. He was a fan favorite. I don't really see a need that they had to change him, except just to allow this feud to happen. And I also think that the way that they're booking Eddie to work is not the greatest way he's a good technical wrestler. They need to showcase that. And he's a good talker. They need to showcase that. He's not talking now. He's being booked poorly, where he's not using a lot of his wrestling ability. And
well, the bottom line is, if Eddie would sit down in the ring and cut a promo and captivate the crowd's attention, Triple H would have to try to do that himself 3 weeks later.
If you want to find
Did that happen?
If you want to find out more about that, all we're going to say is hit up the website, WrestlingEpicenter.com. You listen to maybe 3 interviews ago, and you're going to hear what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But a little bit more on this match. I was personally surprised to see Rey get the win as well. I just didn't see it happening. But that is our SmackDown recap. We're going to take another quick break, come back, and we're going to discuss a little bit more about the draft, who we think should move, because we're hearing that it's not done. We're going to get into the trade portion of the draft coming up shortly over the next few weeks. So make sure you stick with us. You're listening to the Interactive Interview.
We'll be right back.
On the Blaze, 1260 AM.
Hey everybody, this is Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man. Remember me? And you're listening to the Interactive Interview.
Oh, your boy Chuck D wasn't lying, and when I say quick break, I mean a quick break. That must have been like 30 seconds. But we're going to talk some more about
That's usually how long Chuck D lasts.
Oh, come on,
Or
dude.
so I've heard.
From who have you heard that from?
Sources.
Yeah, okay. Sources, like your sources that a person like let's say, I'm not even going to get into a whole conversation of burying someone. I don't need to do it. Those people that get crappy sources out there on the internet, they know it. We know it. It ain't no thing. But we've been talking a lot over the last few weeks about who we think should be traded. And I'm going to get right into it and say this first off. I think Charlie Haas and Jackie need to go over to Raw and kind of a package deal and pair back up with Shelton Benjamin. And I think that's a legitimate trade we could be seeing happen here in the next few weeks.
I think it'd be a necessary one. I knew it wouldn't be a draft pick this week just because I don't think either one of those are big enough stars to go over. But I thought it was an interesting idea. They could pair back up the world's greatest tag team because I don't think Shelton's going anywhere as a singles wrestler, and I've been predicting this for over 6 months now. So.
Well, it's not even about predicting that. I think that, Shelton Benjamin's still a young guy. Charlie Haas is still a relatively young guy. They have time, and the tag team division is in glaring, desperate need of some help. To get those two back together, I think it would add a lot of credibility. People really believed they were the world's greatest tag team for a time. And I think having Miss Jackie only adds. They could be a great heel tag team. You have that hot chick valet.
I just don't understand.
You get heel heat.
What happened after Armageddon when he told her that she's a slut and walked down on her? Did they ever get back together on camera? Because I don't remember if they did.
They have been back together on camera. That's too far back for us to go right now because there's a whole big, long storyline involved that we just don't have the time, brother.
I must have just been sleeping through it.
I'll tell you what, we got to be shooting fast because we're running out of time. Who would you like to see move either one brand to another?
I'd like to see Christian and Batista go to SmackDown.
Okay, now in all seriousness, who would you like to see?
I really don't have an option or a care. I don't think that they're going to bring back the women's division on Raw, so there goes any females that would get moved over. And I think the coach shed light on that they pretty much don't care about the women's division anymore. He pretty much said that word for word, that the emphasis is not on the women's division right now.
Well, see, now
So you're not going to see any females get drafted, I don't believe. Anybody that can work anyway.
Well, dude, I'm going to call you right now and say you're full of crap because you do have opinions on this, and we've talked about them every night. What do you think about Eugene and Heidenreich pairing up together? I thought you thought that'd be very entertaining.
There used to be an old cartoon show called The Super Best Friends. And there used to be a bunch of superheroes like the Green Lantern and Spider-Man and all those guys. And I thought that since Heidenreich likes to go to people and say, friend, that it would be great if they paired them together and called them the Super Best Friends.
So then you do care. You'd like to see this happen.
Yeah, it'd be another great tag team. It'd be goofy as hell. And you can have Eugene try to write poetry. It'd be funny. People would dig it. It'd work.
I think what happens here, ladies and gentlemen, is when I put James Walsh on the spot, the man draws blanks. He cannot shoot off the cuff. He is like a Triple H, if you will. He needs to have the pre-scripted promos that go 20 minutes long. Otherwise, he doesn't know what to say, and he'll just go back to his automatic response of, well, I don't really care. I have the game because I'm that damn good.
Yeah, well, everybody has a set program. I think I threw you off when I said you only last 30 seconds.
No, you didn't throw me off because I know it's a vehement lie. Basically, what this is like Paul Heyman trying to shoot on ECW or RVD trying to shoot on people. Now, I'll tell you what. I only care about two things. That's going to be my freaks and my peaks. I take women to Nirvana. So hotter, if you hear me.
Give me a blanket mic.
Yeah, dude. Give me a mic! I'm telling you, dude.
Doesn't have the same effect without the expletive in there, does it?
I know. We are huge marks here of Scott Steiner on the show. I'll tell you what, I'd love to see him drafted to somewhere because I think he could be a valuable asset, but we all know that's not going to happen.
How about we draft him to Iraq?
Let's get back on topic. I feel like we're here with Chris Yandick and Eric
I think you
Clancy
could tear them up over there, to be honest with you.
What I think else needs to happen is I think there's some people like the Hurricane and I think there's people like the Tajiri that need to go over to SmackDown in some sort of trade. And I think they need to help reconstruct that cruiserweight division. It's something that people have been wanting to see for a long time. And the Hurricane, even though he is the current WWE Tag Team Champion, isn't really going anywhere. No one does know it, and he's not going anywhere, and either is Tajiri. So why not send them over there? They're both valuable and great cruiserweights. They had good runs in WCW. They can have greater runs in the WWE if given the proper opportunity.
Yes, they definitely did. I think that even bringing Kid Cash in, even though I hate the little midget, would help the division, and that probably stuns Chuck D to hear me say.
I'm moderately surprised, I must say.
I also think that the draft that involved bringing Hassan and Daivari over at the same time is going to prove beneficial because you got a superstar in Hassan and you got a great cruiserweight that nobody even knows is a great cruiserweight in Daivari. So he's another great addition to the cruiserweight division should they put any emphasis on it.
Now, I still agree with you about the women's division. I think there's some valuable women, like we talked about bringing in Jackie and Charlie Haas over. Jackie can work. She had one bad match. She's a little afraid. But I think if you get her back in there in some dark matches and house shows, she'll gain her confidence back. She'll be a valuable woman wrestler.
I agree with that.
I know you don't agree with Tori Wilson, but
she can't work a lick.
Well, I still think at this point in time it's better than nothing. And I also think there's some people.
Nothing is better.
I think there's Dawn Marie that can come over when she's done with her current pregnancy. There are some capable female workers that could be drafted or traded over to Raw that would only help bolster that division. Unfortunately, I agree with you. I don't see it happening. I'd like to see it happen, but I think the Diva search is basically going to be our Philly Divas here for the next month or so.
Yeah, and that was not Alexis Lurie in the Diva search, was it?
No, that was, that's the other thing. When we're talking about this women's division, there are some quality women. We got, we have a woman by the name of Angel Starr down in OVW that could be brought up, Alexis
Who's
Lurie.
the chick with the mole?
I don't know who that is. That was a gimmick. That's Bob Holly's girlfriend. She was supposed to be brought up, but we haven't seen that come to fruition yet. I mentioned that maybe about 3 months ago on the show. James Walsh always likes to go back in history because, he just...
I just don't remember her name. I legitimately don't remember her name. That's why I asked.
I don't know, but, there's a lot that could be done with the women's division, and I think it's something that's sad that we're going to lose. I also like to see something happen that I thought maybe actually be able to get done, was to kind of recreate the hardcore division, but with RVD going over to Raw, I think that really hurts the chances, and I really don't see that happening.
You know what we just did on the website, and we put up an entire title history. And as we were doing it, we were amazed at how many titles there were. And how many titles there are now doesn't even compare. There's 4 titles that I can think of off the top of my head. And none of them are really being used to the best of their ability.
Well, there's far more than 4.
U.S., Intercontinental, World, and World, which confuses the hell out of me. And
Cruiserweight, tag teams, women's.
Well, yeah, but those belts... what can I say? Chuck had me beat. But they're not of any consequence at this point.
No, and they're not. And that's what we're trying to say here within this trade. There's ways they can make those belts mean a little bit more by having some quality people come over, or not even necessarily quality, but just to have people there. Because right now, it doesn't matter the quality of the women that can wrestle. The fact is, they only have Victoria that can currently work. So they need to feed her at least more bodies to help sustain her as a credible champion when she gets the belt, which I think will happen eventually when Trish Stratus comes back. But even that feud's been worked and worked and worked and worked. They need to have new bodies in there just to have these people feud with. Even if it's like kind of a Goldberg-type situation where they just feed them talent. Whether or not they can work is irrelevant. They just need to feed them people, have them be destroyed, and build up the champions.
What I find ironic about this, and I'm going to rip on you a little bit, but I'm not intentionally, is that earlier on you were a little angry that Chris Masters was in there with Tajiri. Yet all they did was feed him a body, and it worked.
Well, because I think that Tajiri is a valuable asset to the WWE in general. I think there's other people who are less of an asset. And I think Tajiri was made to look pretty weak, except for his green mist.
I'd agree with that to a point, but I just think that you really have to lighten up a little bit, let there be squash matches. There's got to be more jobbers on the show. I mean, it doesn't matter to me if I have to sit through a couple bad matches to get to a good one. I think it needs to happen. Every match, every show cannot be pay-per-view quality.
Well, guys, we're just about out of time. I got a few quick announcements to run down through with you. For starters, on WrestlingEpicenter.com, we're going to be launching a new talk show on Thursday night. It's going to feature Matt Hoover, who you heard earlier, as well as Eric Clancy. He's going to make his return to the mic, so make sure you stay tuned for that. That'll be taking place Thursday night. We are going to give them both an F and mic. We'll be back next Thursday. Like I said, we got a great interview coming up for you. Make sure you keep it us in the back of your mind when you go to see that. Also, we've added some new sections to our forum. Make sure you check those out on the website. We're doing big things. For James Waltz, it's your boy Chuck D. You're listening, or have listened to, the interactive interview here on The Blaze, 1260 AM.
Yay!